Dum dum dum. Welcome back to a new day and a new Bible study. Today, 2 Samuel chapter 20. We're almost finished with 2 Samuel. And I will just let you know that we are not going to go to 1 Kings after this. We're actually going to go to 1 Chronicles. And the reason for that is because 1 Chronicles gives us another record of the reign of David. So there's a lot of details and information that we want to pick up from 1 Chronicles that is going to tie into the story of David. And then we can move on into the books of the Kings that talk about the kings who followed after David. So that's kind of the pathway forward. But today, let's deal with chapter 20. When did these events happen? Well, in the reign of David, between 1055 BC to 1015 BC approximately. Our main character is David himself, king of both Israel and Judah. Joab, who was a military leader in David's army, one of his faithful servants, a very seasoned warrior. Abishai, he was a mighty man and a longtime friend of David's as well. He was actually Joab's brother. Amasa, I don't think we've talked about him, at least I don't remember mentioning him in another chapter, but Amasa had previously been the commander of Absalom's army. We did mention him in the last chapter, actually. So he was the previous commander of Absalom's army, but Absalom had been killed. After defeating Absalom, David appointed him as the commander of his own army. Seems like a strange strategy. You beat this guy's general, and so then you decide to replace your general who won the battle with the guy who lost the battle. Interesting. Okay, and then finally, Sheba. Sheba's highlighted in this chapter. He's said to be the son of Bichri. He's described as a worthless fellow, and he led a rebellion against David amongst the people of Israel. Now to our map. David returned to his house and throne in Jerusalem after he defeated Absalom's rebellion. Joab is going to kill Amasa in this chapter, and that is said to be done near a great stone in Gibeon. And then Sheba fortified himself in a city called Abel of Beth-makkah. This is a city very up north on our map, city north of Lake Hula, which is actually north of the Sea of Galilee. Okay, now over to our blue page, our outline section. Verses 1 through 13, Sheba starts a rebellion in Israel. If you remember from last chapter ended with an argument between the men of Israel and the men of Judah in regards to King David and whether or not he should be appointed king. The people of Israel were mad at the people of Judah for bringing him across the Jordan without telling them, without asking them to help, right? So there's this anger. A guy named Sheba was present, and he started a rebellion against King David. He led many of the men of Israel away, claiming that they had no loyalty to David whatsoever. David needed to put down this rebellion, so he told Amasa, the new commander of his army, to gather up the men of Judah and return to him in 3 days. Well, for some reason, Amasa missed the deadline. He didn't come back in 3 days, and so then David sent Abishai and Joab to capture Sheba. Joab, while he was on his way to capture Sheba, he met Amasa near a large stone in Gibeon, and he pretended as if he was going to greet him like a friend, but he actually had his sword in his left hand, and he stabbed Amasa in the stomach when he was greeting him and killed him. So the track record for those who want to take Joab's job as the commander of David's army, it's not so good. So Amasa is now out of the way. Joab doesn't really tolerate competition. Amasa's body was said to have just been left in the road for a while until somebody picked it up, took it off the road, and covered it with a cloth. Now, after seeing their commander dead, Amasa's men joined Joab in pursuit of Sheba. Now, section number 2, verses 14 through 22, a wise woman ends Sheba's rebellion and saves her city. Joab finally caught up with Sheba way up north in a place called Abel of Beth-makkah, and this is up near the city of Dan, which is generally considered to be kind of like the extreme northern boundary of the Israelites' territory. Sheba was inside this city, hoping that the walls were going to protect him. But Joab and Abishai, they were determined to get him, so they besieged the city, at least until a wise woman, we don't know her name, she's described as a wise woman, asked to speak with Joab from the wall of the city. She didn't understand why Joab was attacking the city in the first place. But when Joab told her that it was because there was a traitor inside, she went and talked to the people of the city, and she convinced them to give Sheba up. She's like, why am I going to let this whole city be destroyed for this guy we don't even know, right? Let's chuck him outside. So it wasn't long before at least part of him got chucked outside of the wall. A little while after this woman understood the situation and talked to the people of the city, Sheba's head was thrown over the top of the wall to Joab. And when Joab saw that Sheba was dead, he called off the war. So this woman saved her entire city. The final section, verses 23 through 26, is just a record of David's government leaders. Joab was the commander of the army, since he got rid of the other guy. Benaiah was in command of the Cherethites and the Pelethites. Adoram managed the forced labor. Jehoshaphat was the recorder. Sheba was secretary. Zadok and Abiathar, priests. And then Ira was David's priest, also translated as chief ruler in the King James Version. Let's finish up with an application from this wise woman. A voice of wisdom can diffuse tense situations that threaten communities. The woman in Abel of Beth Makkah took initiative to speak to Joab to understand the situation, to keep Joab from tearing down her entire town. And she saved her entire town by suggesting that maybe all-out war wasn't the only solution. In our churches and our families, I think there's application for this. Strive to be a wise voice that keeps hot-headed people from destroying unity. When people are mad, typically they see in black and white, and that's the only way they see, right? But maybe there's another solution, and a wise person has to point out that solution. Try to be that person. Solutions that preserve unity often aren't very difficult to find, as was the case in Abel of Beth Makkah, but we need wise people to guide us to them.